The grand meeting hall of the Araxian Empire buzzed with excitement. 50 high-ranking military officers sat around a massive table shaped like their home planet. Admiral Clev, the oldest and most respected commander, stood at the head of the table. His gray skin wrinkled as he frowned at the holographic display showing the border between Araxian and human space. "The humans have pulled back their ships," Admiral Clev said, pointing to the empty zones that once held human defense stations. "Our scouts confirm it. They leave their outer colonies almost unprotected." Captain Reed, younger than most in the A room but rising quickly through the ranks, leaned forward. "Why would they do this? It makes no sense." "Fear," said General Moore with a laugh that shook his massive shoulders. "They have heard of our new battleships. They know they cannot win." The room filled with agreeing nods and confident smiles. The Araxian Empire had ruled this part of the galaxy for 2,000 years. Humans were newcomers barely 2 centuries into space travel. What could they possibly know about real war? Reed wasn't convinced. What about the stories? The missing ships near their territory? The room grew quiet. Everyone had heard the rumors. 12 Araxian ships gone without a trace over the past year. No distress calls, no debris. Just gone. Admiral Clev waved his hand dismissively. "Propaganda. The humans spread these tales to seem mysterious and dangerous. Our ships were lost to normal space hazards or pilot error. But the timing," Reed started. "Enough." General Moore slammed his fist on the table. "Are you scared of human ghost stories, Captain?" Reed straightened his back. "No, sir. I simply believe we should consider all possibilities." "The only possibility," Admiral Clev said firmly, "is that the humans recognize our superiority and retreat rather than face destruction. The Emperor has ordered us to claim their outer systems. We move in 3 days." After the meeting ended, Reed walked slowly through the massive hallways of the Imperial Command Center. The walls displayed scenes of Araxian victories in past wars. Hundreds of battles, dozens of conquered species. None had stood against them for long. Yet something bothered him about the human retreat. It didn't match what he knew about them. Humans were stubborn. They didn't give up territory easily. "You look troubled in there," said a voice behind him. Reed turned to see Intelligence Officer Dren, a thin, quiet Araxian known for her brilliant analysis. "The humans are planning something," Reed said. "This is too easy." Dren nodded. "I've studied their battle history. They often appear to retreat before striking back in unexpected ways. Have you told the Admiral?" "I've tried." Dren sighed. "He believes what he wants to believe. The Empire has never lost, so he cannot imagine losing now." Reed stopped walking and lowered his voice. "What about the missing ships? Do you think the rumors are true?" "About the human ghost ship, the one that leaves no traces?" Dren's eyes narrowed. "I don't know about ghosts, but 12 of our ships didn't just disappear by accident. Some say it's not really a ship at all," Reed whispered. "Something new. Something we don't understand." Dren looked around to make sure no one could hear them. 3 months ago, I intercepted a partial human communication. It mentioned something called Ghost Protocol and distributed warfare. I couldn't decode more, but it didn't sound like conventional weapons." A chill ran down Reed's spine. "Did you report this?" "Of course. It was dismissed as meaningless chatter." Dren straightened her uniform. "The Empire believes bigger is always better. They cannot imagine any other way to fight." 3 days later, the invasion began. Reed watched from the bridge of his ship, the Relentless, as the massive Araxian fleet moved toward human space. 100 ships ranging from small scouts to the enormous dreadnought commanded by Admiral Clev himself. The first human system fell without resistance. The small colony on its outer planet had been evacuated. The few defensive satellites were easily destroyed, "See?" Commander Tark said, smiling at Reed as they received reports of the victory. "The humans run like prey animals." The second system fell just as easily, and the third. Each time the humans seemed to have just left, taking their people and as much equipment as they could carry. Reed's unease grew with each bloodless victory. This wasn't war as he understood it. Where was the human fleet? Their famous determination? Their ingenuity that other species often praised? 1 week into the invasion, with 5 human systems under Araxian control, the first strange reports came in. A scout ship on the edge of conquered territory reported unusual sensor readings before going silent. 2 more scouts sent to investigate also disappeared. Sensor malfunction, Admiral Clev announced during the daily briefing. Or perhaps desertion. We will deal with them when they return. But Reed noticed Dren's expression. She didn't believe it either. That night, unable to sleep, Reed accessed the ship's library and researched human battle tactics throughout their short but violent history. What he found disturbed him. Humans rarely fought the same way twice. They adapted. They surprised their enemies, and they often let their opponents advance before closing a trap. The next morning, 3 more ships were missing. This time, 1 had managed to send a partial message. Cannot see it. Systems failing. It's not where it appears to be. Admiral Clev called an emergency meeting. For the first time, Reed saw worry on the old commander's face. We believe the humans have deployed some kind of stealth technology, Clev announced. Something that interferes with our sensors. Nothing to fear, but we will move forward more carefully. Captain Reed looked around the room. Most officers nodded, relieved to have an explanation. But Dren met his eyes across the table, her expression grim. After the meeting, she passed him in the hallway and whispered, "It's happening. The ghost ship. But I don't think it's a ship at all." "What do you mean?" Reed asked. "I need proof first," Dren said. "Meet me in Analysis Lab 3 tonight. Tell no one." But Dren never arrived at their meeting. Reed waited for 2 hours before returning to his quarters, worried but unsure what to do. The next morning, the invasion continued. The fleet approached the 6th human system, expecting another easy victory. Reed stood at his post on the bridge, scanning the seemingly empty space before them. And then, for just a moment, his sensors detected something impossible. Thousands of tiny objects, moving in perfect coordination, surrounding the Araxian fleet on all sides. They appeared and disappeared so quickly that Reed thought he might have imagined it, but the look of shock on Commander Tark's face told him others had seen it too. "What was that?" Tark demanded. Before anyone could answer, a message appeared on every screen in the fleet. The words were simple in perfect Araxian language. "You sought the dreaded ship. But how can you find what doesn't exist as you understand existence? Turn back now." As the message faded, Reed realized a terrible truth. The humans hadn't been retreating out of fear. They had been luring the Araxians in. Commander Tark stood tall on the bridge of the Araxian warship Dominance, watching the stars through the massive viewport. His chest swelled with pride as he led the vanguard fleet deeper into human territory. Behind him, 30 ships formed, a perfect attack formation. Their silver hulls gleamed in the light of an unfamiliar sun. "Commander," called out Navigator Lox from her station, "we've reached the edge of the Vega system. Scans show 3 inhabited planets, minimal defenses." Tark nodded, his blue-gray skin crinkling around his eyes as he smiled. "Any sign of resistance?" "None, sir. Just like the other systems. We detect evacuation ships leaving the 3rd planet, but no military vessels." This was the 7th human system they had entered in 2 weeks. Each time, the pattern was the same. The humans fled rather than fight. It puzzled Tark, but he wasn't complaining. Easy victories meant quick promotion. "Send the standard message," Tark ordered. "This system is now under Araxian control. Any humans remaining must surrender immediately." Lieutenant Grell, the communications officer, transmitted the message. Moments later, he turned to Tark with a confused expression. "Sir, we're receiving a response. It's unusual." "Put it on the main screen," Tark commanded. The screen lit up with a simple text message. "We acknowledge your presence." Tark frowned. Not a surrender, not a challenge. Just acknowledgement. "Sir," Navigator Lox called out. "Sensors show all. Human ships have now left the system. The planets appear to be completely evacuated. They're running scared, Tark announced confidently to his crew. The mighty humans afraid to even face us. His officers laughed. Only Officer Mech, recently transferred from Captain Reed's ship, remained silent. Tark noticed. You disagree, Officer Mech? Mech hesitated. Sir, Captain Reed believed this was a strategy, not fear. The humans are drawing us in. Captain Reed, Tark said with clear disdain, is currently being questioned by Imperial intelligence for spreading panic. The humans retreat because they know they cannot win. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what questioning meant. Reed had voiced concerns one too many times. Tark turned back to the viewport. Begin standard occupation procedure. Send scout ships to the outer planets. 4 scout ships departed the fleet, heading toward different parts of the system. The bridge crew watched their progress on the tactical display. 3 hours later, scout ship Talon 3 reported something unusual. Commander. The pilot's voice came through slightly distorted. We're detecting strange energy readings near the asteroid belt. It's not matching any known signature. Probably mining equipment the humans abandoned, Tark replied. Investigate, but keep your distance. Yes, sir. Approaching now. The readings are... Wait. Something's wrong with our systems. Engines are fluctuating. Sensors are... The transmission cut off abruptly. Talon 3 report, Tark demanded. Silence answered him. Tark ordered Talon 2 to investigate. This scout also went silent after reporting similar system failures. A small knot of worry formed in Tark's stomach. 2 ships lost was no coincidence. He ordered the fleet to move to alert status. Sir, Lieutenant Grell said, Admiral Clev is requesting an update. What should I tell him? Tark considered his options. Admitting problems would make him look weak, but lying to the Admiral was dangerous. Tell him we've encountered minor resistance, Tark decided. Nothing the Vanguard cannot handle. Later that night, alone in his quarters, Tark reviewed the sensor logs from the missing scouts. Something bothered him about the readings before they went silent. The energy signatures were like nothing in the Araxian database. A soft chime announced, a visitor. Officer Mech entered, looking uncomfortable. Sir, I've been analyzing the data from our lost ships, Mech said. I believe I've found something important. Speak, Tark ordered. The energy readings matched descriptions of a theoretical technology. Something Intelligence Officer Dren mentioned before she disappeared. Mech swallowed hard. It's called quantum phasing. The humans have been researching it for years. And what exactly does this technology do? Tark asked, his voice lower than usual. It allows matter to partially exist in multiple states simultaneously, like being visible and invisible at the same time, or being present but untouchable. Tark laughed, though it sounded forced even to his own ears. That's impossible. You cannot be 2 things at once. Humans have different physics than we do, Mech said quietly. They understand quantum mechanics in ways we don't. Tark stood suddenly. Enough. This is the kind of talk that got Captain Reed in trouble. We are the Araxian Empire. We have conquered 50 species. No technology can stand against us, especially not from primitive humans. The next morning, Tark ordered the fleet to advance deeper into the system. As they approached the second planet, sensors began picking up unusual readings again. Sir, Navigator Lox called out, her voice trembling slightly. I'm detecting thousands of small objects all around us. They appear and disappear from our sensors. A sensor malfunction, Tark insisted. Run diagnostics. Already did, sir. The system checks out fine. Whatever we're seeing is real, or at least partly real. Tark felt the knot in his stomach tighten. Show me. The tactical display revealed what looked like a cloud of tiny dots surrounding the fleet. Each dot appeared for a second, vanished, then reappeared elsewhere. There was no pattern Tark could discern. What are they? He whispered. As if in answer, every screen on the bridge suddenly displayed the same message. You sought combat with Us, yet you will not find what you expect. Last warning. They're trying to scare us, Tark announced to his increasingly nervous crew. Ignore these tricks. Continue forward. 3 more ships vanished that day. No explosions, no debris. They simply stopped responding, their signals disappearing from all monitors. That evening, Tark sent his daily report to Admiral Clev, downplaying the losses and blaming them on navigation errors. But he was starting to doubt his own words. As he tried to sleep that night, Tark's thoughts kept returning to what Officer Mech had said. Quantum phasing. Being and not being at the same time. It seemed like magic, not science. The next morning, the fleet approached the innermost planet of the system. This was where the humans had their main colony now evacuated. Taking this planet would complete their conquest of the system. Sir, Lieutenant Grell suddenly called out. We're receiving a direct communication request. It says it's from the human commander. Tark straightened his uniform. Finally, a surrender. Put it through. The screen remained dark, but a calm voice filled the bridge. Commander Tark of the Araxian Empire. You have ignored our warnings and lost 7 ships as a result. We did not destroy them. Their crews are safe, simply elsewhere. We have no desire for war, but we will defend what is ours. You've been looking for our dreaded ships, but you will never find them. Not as you understand ships to be. Show yourself, Tark demanded. Face us like warriors. That's the problem, Commander, the voice replied. You think of war as warriors facing each other. We left that concept behind long ago. Look outside your viewport. Now, Tark turned to the massive window. At first he saw nothing unusual. Then, like a mirage coming into focus, something appeared. It wasn't a ship. It was thousands, perhaps millions of tiny objects, each no bigger than his hand, moving in perfect coordination. Together, they formed a shifting, flowing pattern all around his fleet. Sometimes they looked solid. Sometimes they seemed to fade into transparency. What is this? Tark whispered. This is just one small part of what you've been calling the dreaded ship, the human voice answered. It doesn't exist as a single vessel. It exists as a network, quantum-linked, partially phased, always changing. You cannot target what isn't fully there. For the first time in his career, Commander Tark felt true fear. He realized that the Araxians hadn't been winning at all. The humans had been leading them exactly where they wanted them to go. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of the Invincible, the largest warship ever built by the Araxian Empire. At 3 kilometers long, it carried enough weapons to destroy an entire planet. Its black hull absorbed light rather than reflected it, making it look like a moving shadow among the stars. Status report, Voss demanded, his deep voice echoing across the silent bridge. Officer Dell stepped forward, trying to hide his nervousness. Admiral, we've entered the Proxima system. Commander Tark's Vanguard fleet awaits our arrival. Voss nodded. He was not pleased with the reports from the front lines. 32 ships lost in 3 weeks, with no explanation Voss found acceptable. Commander Tark's latest communications had been strange, talking about invisible enemies and quantum ghosts. The High Command was losing patience. Put Commander Tark on screen, Voss ordered. When Tark's face appeared, Voss was shocked. The once confident commander looked exhausted. His skin had faded to a pale gray and his eyes darted nervously. Admiral Voss, Tark said, attempting to straighten his posture. Welcome to the front lines. Report, Commander. And I want facts, not ghost stories. Tark swallowed visibly. Sir, the situation is not what we expected. The humans have developed technology we don't understand. They don't fight conventionally. They use some kind of distributed system. Distributed system? Voss repeated with obvious disgust. You mean they have multiple ships? That's hardly new. No, sir. Not ships as we understand them. Millions of tiny devices that work together. They appear and disappear. Our weapons can't lock onto them. Our shields can't block them. They get inside our systems somehow. Voss fought to control his temper. Commander Tark, you sound like you've lost your nerve. Perhaps you need rest. I'll take command of the Vanguard personally. Relief washed over Tark's face. Thank you, Admiral. I'll prepare for your arrival. After ending the transmission, Voss turned to his second-in-command, Major Pike. What do you make of that? Has Tark gone mad? Pike hesitated. Intelligence reports suggest something unusual is happening, sir. Several intercepted human communications mention something called Ghost Protocol, and they refer to their fleet as the Phantom Network rather than individual ships. Voss waved dismissively. Psychological warfare make us fear what doesn't exist. The humans are clever, I'll give them that. There's more, sir, Pike continued. One of our cruisers, the Dauntless, managed to record visual contact with something before it went silent. The footage was sent back to us. Voss raised an eyebrow. Show me. The main screen switched to show recording from the Dauntless. It showed normal space, then a strange shimmer appeared like heat waves rising from hot ground. The shimmer formed into a loose cloud of small metallic objects, each about the size of a fist. They moved in perfect coordination, sometimes forming shapes that almost looked like letters or symbols. What am I looking at? Voss demanded. We believe these are the devices Commander Tark mentioned, Pike answered. The recording continues for another 3 seconds, then all systems on the Dauntless shut down. And the crew? No bodies found. The ship was completely empty when our rescue team boarded it. Life support was functioning. Food was still warm in the dining hall. It's as if the crew simply vanished. For the first time, Voss felt a flicker of unease. He quickly suppressed it. Analyze every frame of that recording. I want to know exactly what those objects are and how they work. 2 days later, Voss's fleet joined with Tark's remaining ships. The combined force was impressive. Over 150 vessels, the largest military gathering in Araxian history. Voss called a meeting of all ship captains in the fleet. They gathered in the Invincible's massive strategy room, with Commander Tark sitting quietly in a corner, looking relieved to no longer be in charge. Our mission remains unchanged, Voss announced. We will secure this human system, then push forward to their core worlds. Yes, we have experienced some unusual resistance, but nothing the Empire cannot overcome. An officer Voss didn't recognize stood up. Admiral, with respect, we don't understand what we're fighting. My ship lost power 3 times yesterday. Each time, those things were detected nearby. Murmurs of agreement spread through the room. Voss slammed his fist on the table. Enough. We are Araxians. We have conquered 50 species. We will not be defeated by tricks and illusions. Just then, the lights flickered. The room's holographic display sputtered, then changed to show a single sentence. We are already here. Panic erupted as officers looked around wildly. Voss roared for silence. A hacking attempt, nothing more, he insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. Return to your ships. We attack at dawn. That night, as Voss studied battle plans in his quarters, a knock came at his door. It was Officer Dren, recently transferred from intelligence headquarters. Her arrival had been unexpected, but Voss had been told she had special knowledge about the human threat. Enter, Voss called. Dren stepped in, carrying a datapad. Admiral, I've been analyzing the patterns of our system failures. There's something you need to see. Speak quickly, Voss said impatiently. The failures aren't random. They follow a pattern. Dren displayed a complex chart. Each malfunction occurs exactly 3.14 seconds after a quantum fluctuation is detected. It's deliberate. They're showing us they have control. What are you suggesting? The humans aren't trying to destroy us, Admiral. They could have done that already. They're communicating, testing us, seeing if we understand. Voss frowned. Understand what? That conventional warfare is obsolete. Their Phantom Network isn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It's a new paradigm. These devices can phase between dimensions, exist in multiple places simultaneously. Our sensors can only detect them when they choose to be seen. Voss stood towering over Dren. You sound like you admire them. I study them, Admiral. There's a difference. Dren met his gaze without flinching. The point is, we cannot fight them conventionally. We need to adapt. And how do you suggest We do that? Voss asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Before Dren could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. Voss rushed to the bridge, Dren following close behind. Report, he demanded. Admiral? The tactical officer stammered. We're detecting those objects everywhere, thousands of them. Inside our shields, some are inside the ship itself. On the main screen, Voss could see them now. Small metallic orbs, appearing and disappearing, moving through solid objects as if they weren't there. Open fire, Voss ordered. At what, sir? We can't lock weapons on them, they're not fully here. As if responding to his words, the objects began to gather, forming a rough shape in space. It took a moment for Voss to recognize what he was seeing, a perfect replica of the Invincible, constructed entirely of the tiny devices. Then, impossibly, a human voice came through every speaker on the bridge. Admiral Voss, your understanding of warfare is outdated. You search for our dreaded ship, but it doesn't exist as you understand existence. We are everywhere and nowhere. We could destroy your fleet right now, but that is not our purpose. Who are you? Voss demanded. Show yourself. I am Captain Miller of the Earth Defense Force. As for showing myself, I already am. Part of my consciousness exists within this network you see before you. Another part remains in human space. I am both places at once. Voss felt a cold realization wash over him. The humans hadn't been retreating out of fear. They had been positioning themselves, watching, learning. And now they were demonstrating power beyond anything the Araxians had imagined possible. For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Voss considered the possibility that he might be outmatched, not by superior numbers or firepower, but by an entirely different understanding of what warfare could be. What happens now? He asked quietly. The shimmering replica of his ship dissolved, the tiny devices spreading out once more. That, Captain Miller's voice replied, depends entirely on you. The Araxian command ship Invincible hung motionless in space, surrounded by the remainder of the once proud invasion fleet. On the bridge, Admiral Voss sat silently in his command chair, staring at the main screen. It showed only stars and the distant glow of the system's sun, but he knew they were out there, the phantom devices, watching, waiting. Admiral, Major Pike said quietly, the fleet commanders are requesting orders. Do we attack or retreat? Voss didn't answer immediately. His mind raced through military strategies, tactics he had used for decades to win countless battles. None seemed relevant anymore. Call a war council, Voss finally ordered. All ship commanders and intelligence officers. 1 hour. When the fleet's leadership gathered in the Invincible's strategy room, the mood was tense. Gone was the usual Araxian confidence. Instead, worried faces looked to Voss for guidance. Commander Tark sat in the corner, still looking shaken from his experiences. Officer Dren stood near a display screen, data pad in hand. Captain Reed, recently released from questioning, had been invited at Dren's insistence. We face an enemy unlike any the Empire has encountered, Voss began, his voice solemn. I have reviewed all reports and recordings. I have spoken with our intelligence experts, and I have come to one conclusion. We do not understand what we are fighting. Murmurs spread through the room. Such an admission from the Empire's greatest admiral was unprecedented. Officer Dren, Voss continued, explain your analysis. Dren stepped forward, activating the room's holographic display. The human defense system we've been calling the dreaded ship is not a ship at all. It's a distributed network of quantum-linked devices. Each unit is capable of partial dimensional phasing. Speak plainly, one of the commanders demanded. They can exist partly in our dimension and partly in another, Dren explained. This is why our sensors can't lock onto them and our weapons pass through them. They become solid only when they choose to. She displayed images captured from various ships. The units appear to be controlled by a combination of artificial intelligence and human consciousness. They act as both sensors and weapons. They can move through solid matter, including our hulls, shields, and even crew members. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Captain Reed stood up. I've studied the pattern of our ship losses. None were actually destroyed. In every case, the crew was removed somehow. The humans are avoiding killing. Removed to where? Someone asked. We don't know, Reed admitted. But the human commander said they were safe. I believe they've been taken to some kind of holding area, possibly through the same dimensional phasing technology. Voss leaned forward. The question is not where. Our people have gone, but what we do now. Our weapons are useless against this technology. Our shields offer no protection. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Dren stepped forward again. Admiral, I believe I understand what the humans want. They've had multiple opportunities to destroy our fleet. They haven't. Instead, they communicate. They demonstrate their capabilities. They're showing us that our understanding of warfare is outdated. What are you suggesting? Voss asked. That we listen. The humans aren't fighting a conventional war. They've moved beyond it. They see conflict differently. Before Voss could respond, every screen in the room suddenly activated, showing the same message. We offer dialogue. One representative. Unarmed. The officers looked at each other in confusion. It's an invitation, Reed said. They want to talk. Voss stood, his massive frame casting a shadow across the table. And who should accept this invitation? Who among us can understand an enemy that exists between dimensions? All eyes turned to Officer Dren. I'll go, she said without hesitation. 6 hours later, Dren stood in a small shuttlecraft moving away from the Invincible toward empty space. She wore no weapons, as requested. Instead, she carried only a data pad containing all the information the Araxians had gathered about the human technology. I see nothing, she reported back to the command ship. Just empty space. Then slowly, the space before her shuttle began to shimmer. Thousands of the small devices appeared, forming a tunnel in space. The shuttle's engines cut out, but it continued moving forward, drawn into the tunnel. I'm being pulled in, Dren reported, her voice calm despite the situation. No sign of conventional ships. The devices they're changing. Through the shuttle's viewport, she watched as the tiny units shifted, merged, and transformed. They began to form a solid-looking structure around her ship. Walls appeared, then a floor, then what looked like human technology. Her shuttle settled onto the newly formed floor. The space around her now appeared to be a room of some kind, constructed entirely from the phantom devices. I appear to be in some kind of meeting room, Dren reported. It's being created around me as I watch. Door formed in one wall, and through it stepped a human. An older male with gray hair and a simple uniform. Intelligence Officer Dren, the human said with a slight bow. I am Captain Miller. Welcome to the Phantom Network. Back on the Invincible, the command crew listened intently as Dren's transmission continued. Captain Miller, they heard her, say, how is this possible? This room, your presence, none of it exists in normal space. That's where you're wrong, Miller replied. It exists precisely where I want it to exist. The units you see are connected quantum mechanically. They can manifest in physical space or retreat to a probability state. They can form any structure I imagine. One person controls all this? Dren asked, incredulous. Not alone. My consciousness is linked to the network along with several others. We guide it. The artificial intelligence handles the details. Together we can create anything, anywhere. We can be everywhere and nowhere. On the bridge of the Invincible, Admiral Voss listened with growing understanding. The humans hadn't built bigger ships or more powerful weapons. They had completely reimagined what warfare could be. Ask him about our missing crews, Voss ordered through the communication link. They heard Dren relay the question, and Miller's response came clearly. Your people are safe. The network transported them to a containment facility near Earth. No. Harm has come to them. They are being treated well. How? Dren asked. How did you remove entire crews without a trace? The same way I'm speaking to you now, Miller explained. By manipulating the boundary between dimensions. Your people were phase-shifted, then transported via quantum entanglement. Distance means nothing to the network. As the conversation continued, Voss turned to Reed. Your suspicions were correct, Captain. This is not a war we can win with conventional tactics. Reed nodded solemnly. The humans don't think about combat the way we do, Admiral. They've moved beyond physical constraints, beyond ships and weapons, as we understand them. On the screen they could see Dren's shuttle, seemingly floating in empty space. But the transmission showed her inside a room that didn't appear to exist. They could have destroyed us at any time, Voss realized aloud. Instead, they chose to teach us. The greatest fleet in Araxian history hovered in space, faced not with defeat by superior firepower, but by the realization that their entire understanding of warfare had become obsolete overnight. Voss made his decision. He opened a channel to Officer Dren. Tell Captain Miller we wish to discuss terms, he said. The Araxian Empire is prepared to listen. The massive conference hall on Neutral Station 7 buzzed with activity. Located in unclaimed space between Araxian and human territories, this space station had been hastily prepared for the peace negotiations. Representatives from both species filled the room, their voices creating a constant background hum. At the center table sat Admiral Voss, flanked by his most trusted advisors. Across from them, Captain Miller represented the humans, along with several officers and diplomatic staff. Officer Dren sat in a position between both groups, her role as first contact giving her a unique perspective. Captain Reed stood against a wall, observing. His vindication came with no joy. Too many lives had been disrupted for him to feel satisfied about being right. Admiral Voss cleared his throat, and the room fell silent. 3 weeks ago, Voss began, his deep voice carrying. Throughout the hall, the Araxian Empire entered human territory with conquest in mind. Today, we sit as equals to discuss peace. This is, unprecedented in our history. Captain Miller nodded. The circumstances are unique for both our peoples, Admiral. We never wanted war. Yet you developed the most advanced weapon system ever. Encountered, Voss countered. Miller smiled slightly. We don't see it as a weapon, Admiral. The Phantom Network is primarily a tool for exploration and creation. Its defensive capabilities were developed only when we detected your fleet gathering at our borders. A murmur ran through the Araxian delegation. The idea that such power could be used mainly for non-military purposes seemed impossible to them. Officer, Dren activated a holographic display showing the tiny units that formed the Phantom Network. For those who haven't been briefed, she explained, these devices represent a fundamental shift in technology. Each unit contains quantum-linked particles that can exist partially in our dimension and partially in another. She looked at Miller. Captain, perhaps you could explain in simple terms how this works. Miller stood. Imagine a book half inside a box and half outside. You can see part of it, but not all. Now imagine the book can choose how much of itself is visible. That's what our units do, but across dimensions rather than physical space. He gestured, and suddenly thousands of the tiny devices appeared throughout the conference hall. The Araxians gasped, some reaching for weapons that had been left outside. Don't be alarmed, Miller said calmly. They're always around us. I'm simply allowing you to see them now. The units moved in perfect coordination, flowing like water through the air. Some passed directly through solid objects, including the stunned delegates. The network exists everywhere we choose to deploy it, Miller continued. It can gather information, create structures, or transport matter across vast distances instantly through quantum entanglement. And it can disable our ships without firing a shot, Admiral Voss added. Miller nodded. Yes. By temporarily phase-shifting critical systems, we can render any conventional vessel inoperable. But we can also do this. The units gathered in the center of the room, forming a perfect replica of the Araxian homeworld, complete with its famous ring system. The detail was extraordinary, down to individual buildings in the capital city. This is a live image, Miller explained. The network extends throughout this region of space. It sees everything but intervenes only when necessary. Captain Reed stepped forward. What happened to our missing crews? They're safe, Miller assured him. When your ships were neutralized, the crews were phase-shifted and transported to a facility near Earth. No one was harmed. In fact, Miller made another gesture, and a door at the end of the hall opened. Through it walked hundreds of Araxian military personnel, the missing crews from the lost ships. They looked confused but unharmed. The room erupted in chaos, as families and friends reunited. Admiral Voss watched in silence, his worldview shifting before his eyes. When order was finally restored, Voss asked the question that had been bothering him for days. Why didn't you simply destroy our fleet? You clearly had the capability. Miller's expression grew serious. Because that's the old way of thinking. The zero-sum game where one side must lose for the other to win. We believe there's a better path. He motioned to one of his officers who distributed data pads to the Araxian delegation. These contain the basic principles of quantum phasing technology, Miller explained. Not enough to replicate the network, but enough to begin your own research. We're offering to share knowledge, not as a defeated enemy, but as a potential partner? Admiral Voss looked stunned. You would give us this, after we invaded your territory? Knowledge isn't diminished by sharing, Miller replied. And we believe the Araxian Empire has much to offer in return. Your propulsion systems, for example, are more efficient than ours. Your cultural achievements are impressive. We see potential for mutual benefit. Officer Dren had been studying the datapad intently. She looked up with wide eyes. This challenges everything we understand about physics. It would take decades to fully comprehend. Then we have decades of cooperation ahead of us, Miller said with a smile. The negotiations continued for 3 days. By the end, a treaty had been drafted. The Araxian Empire would withdraw from human territory. A demilitarized zone would be established. Cultural and scientific exchanges would begin immediately. On the final day, Captain Reed found himself standing next to Admiral Voss, watching as the treaty was prepared for signing. I never imagined it would end this way, Voss said quietly. Which way is that, sir? Reed asked. Not with victory or defeat, but with understanding. Voss turned to Reed. You saw it first. The signs that the humans were different, that they didn't think about warfare as we do. Reed nodded. They don't see power as the ability to destroy. They see it as the ability to create, to connect, to transcend limitations. As the delegates gathered for the final ceremony, Miller approached Voss with an unexpected offer. Admiral, we have a tradition when new species join our network of allies. We offer them the opportunity to experience the network directly, to understand it in a way words cannot convey. What would this involve? Voss asked cautiously. A temporary neural link to the network. You would see what I see, feel what it's like to exist partially beyond conventional dimensions. Voss hesitated only briefly before nodding. I accept. Miller placed a small device on Voss's temple. The Admiral's eyes widened, then unfocused as his consciousness expanded. For 5 minutes, Voss stood motionless. When Miller finally removed the device, tears streamed down the Admiral's face. I saw everything, Voss whispered. All the ships in our fleet, Earth, stars being born. It was beautiful. Captain Reed watched as the once feared Admiral Voss, conqueror of dozens of worlds, signed the peace treaty with hands that still trembled from the experience. Later, as the Araxian delegation prepared to depart, Reed approached Officer Dren. What happens now? He asked. Dren looked thoughtful. Everything changes. Our understanding of physics, of technology, of warfare, even of consciousness itself. The Phantom Network isn't just a new weapon. It's a new way of existing. She glanced at the humans across the room. They never developed the dreaded ship we feared. Instead, they created something far more powerful, a system that makes conventional ships obsolete. Reed nodded slowly. We thought we understood combat. Until we didn't encounter the dreaded ship, Dren finished with a small smile. Because it never existed in the first place. As Reed boarded the shuttle that would take him back to the Araxian fleet, He looked out at the seemingly empty space around the station. But now he knew better. The tiny units were out there, watching, connecting, existing between dimensions. The Araxians had come seeking conquest through destruction. They were leaving with something far more valuable, a new understanding of what was possible when you stopped trying to destroy your enemies and started trying to transcend your limitations instead. The small human colony of Hope Point glittered against the dark background of space. Located on the outer edge of explored territory, it was humanity's farthest outpost from Earth. The colony housed 3,000 people who lived in dome-shaped buildings connected by transparent tubes. From orbit, it looked like a spider web made of light. Commander Jack Miller stood at the main observation deck watching the stars. At 45, he had the weathered face of someone who had spent too much time in space. His gray-streaked hair was cut short, military style. "Sir, the research team has left orbit," reported Officer Dave from the communications station. "They should reach the asteroid belt within 3 hours." Jack nodded. "Tell them to be careful. We still don't know much about this system. The research mission was simple: collect samples from the mineral-rich asteroids that circled the nearby gas giant. Scientists believed these rocks contained rare elements not found on Earth. If they were right, Hope Point would become very important, very quickly. 5 ships had left that morning carrying 20 scientists and 10 crew members. Among them was Jack's friend, Dr. Robert White, the colony's lead scientist. "I should be back before dinner," Robert had told Jack before leaving. "Save me some of that synthetic coffee you're hoarding." Jack smiled at the memory. The coffee was terrible, but it was the closest thing to the real stuff they had out here. "Sir." Dave's voice pulled Jack from his thoughts. "We're picking up strange energy readings near the asteroid belt." Jack frowned. "What kind of readings?" "Unknown. Sir, nothing we've seen before." Before Jack could respond, the emergency alarm blared through the colony. Red lights flashed across every screen. "Multiple objects approaching from the asteroid belt," Dave shouted. "They're moving fast, too fast for natural objects." Jack's stomach dropped. "Show me." The main screen lit up with a tactical display. Several dots were moving toward their 5 research ships. Jack had been in the military long enough to recognize attack formations. "Contact the research fleet, tell them to abort mission, and return immediately." But it was too late. On the screen, 3 of the 5 human ships winked out of existence. No explosion, no debris field. They simply disappeared. "What just happened?" Jack demanded. "Unknown, sir. But the remaining ships are turning back. They're broadcasting distress signals." Jack grabbed the comm unit. "Research vessels, this is Commander Miller. Report." Robert's voice came through, filled with panic. "Jack, we're under attack. Some kind of alien ships appeared out of nowhere. They've already destroyed..." Static cut through the transmission. "Robert, can you make it back to the colony?" "Negative. Weapons disabled. They're using some kind of energy we've never seen. Tell Earth." The transmission died. Jack stared at the screen in horror as the 4th ship disappeared. Only one remained, limping back toward the colony with what looked like severe damage. "Sir." Dave's voice was tight with fear. "The unknown vessels have changed course. They're heading straight for us." Jack hit the colony-wide alarm. "All civilians to shelter zones, security teams to battle stations." Not that it would help much. Hope Point was a research colony with minimal defenses. Through the observation window, Jack saw them approaching. 7 ships, each shaped like a curved blade. They moved with impossible grace, leaving trails of blue energy. "Attempting communication on all frequencies," Dave reported. No response. The first attack came without warning. A beam of purple energy sliced through the colony's outer ring, cutting through metal and plastic like they were paper. The emergency shields activated, but they weren't designed for this kind of assault. "Evacuation protocol," Jack ordered. "Get everyone to the emergency ships." But the alien vessels positioned themselves in a circle around the colony, cutting off all escape routes. More energy beams struck the colony's structures. Air vented into space from a dozen breaches. The power grid failed, plunging sections into darkness. In the chaos, Jack managed to reach the emergency communications center. If they couldn't escape, they could at least warn Earth. He activated the quantum communicator, the only device capable of sending instant messages across vast distances. "This is Commander Jack Miller of Hope Point Colony," he recorded as the building shook around him. "We are under attack by unknown alien forces. 3 research vessels destroyed. Colony defenses failing. The attackers use advanced energy weapons, unlike anything in our records." Another blast rocked the building. The ceiling collapsed nearby. The Aramim appeared without warning and attacked without communication. "If anyone receives this, warn Earth. These beings are hostile and technologically advanced. Coordinates attached. Do not send unarmed ships. Repeat, do not." The wall beside him exploded, inward. Through the breach, Jack saw one of the alien ships hovering just outside, its hull shimmering with strange lights. For a moment, Jack thought he saw something looking back at him through a transparent section of the vessel, a tall, thin figure with multiple limbs. With his last act, Jack hit the transmit button before the vacuum of space pulled him through the breach. The message shot across space, encoded in a quantum signal impossible to block or intercept. From a safe distance, the alien ships, vessels of the species humans would later know as the Vex, watched the colony break apart. Their sensors detected no more life signs. Their mission complete, they turned and moved away, their engines flaring blue against the darkness. They believed they had eliminated a minor threat from an unknown but primitive species. They had no way of knowing that the distress signal had already reached its destination. They had no idea that the humans had a home planet with billions more of their kind. And they certainly couldn't imagine the terrible vengeance that would soon be heading their way. On Earth, in the headquarters of the Space Defense Force, a general looked up from a screen with grim determination. "Prepare the Nemesis," he ordered. Admiral Tom Wells stood before the United Earth Council, his face grim. The large screen behind him showed the final moments of Hope Point Colony, structures breaking apart, bodies floating in space, and alien ships cutting through everything with purple beams. "The message from Commander Miller arrived 3 days ago," he said. "We sent scout ships to verify. There is nothing left of Hope Point. No survivors." The council room fell silent. 12 men and women sat around a curved table, representing all regions of Earth. They had governed human space for 30 years through peaceful expansion and scientific discovery, but never through war. "What do we know about these attackers?" asked Counselor Mary, an older woman with steel-gray hair. Admiral Wells pressed a button. The screen changed to show the blade-shaped alien ships. "Very little. We're calling them the Vex based on the partial data Commander Miller sent. They are clearly advanced. Their weapons cut through our strongest materials like nothing, and they attacked without trying to communicate first." "Could it have been a misunderstanding?" asked Counselor John, the youngest member. "Perhaps they thought our research ships were threatening them." Wells shook his head. "Our ships were clearly marked as scientific vessels. They carried no weapons, and after destroying them, the Vex then attacked a civilian colony. This was not a misunderstanding. This was a slaughter." The council members looked at each other with worried expressions. Humanity had met other alien species before, but all previous contacts had been peaceful. "What do you suggest we do, Admiral?" asked the council president. Wells straightened his back. "I propose we deploy the Nemesis." Murmurs filled the room. The Nemesis was not supposed to exist, at least not officially. It was Earth's most advanced warship, built in secret over 10 years using technology that even humans didn't fully understand. "That ship hasn't even completed its final testing," objected Counselor Mary. "It's ready enough," Wells replied. "And it's our best option. The Nemesis has systems that can adapt to any enemy technology. If anything can stand against these Vex, it's that ship." "And who would you send with it?" asked the president. "I've already selected a crew." Wells pressed another button and the screen showed pictures and information about several people. "The best we have, starting with Captain Greg Thompson, our most experienced combat officer." The screen showed a man in his 50s with a serious face and many medals on his uniform. Our tactical officer will be Lieutenant Ben Reed. The screen changed to show a younger man with determined eyes. He lost his brother and sister-in-law at Hope Point. They were scientists there. Wells continued through the list, ending with a woman in a science uniform. And finally, Dr. Lisa Moore, our leading xenobiologist. If there's any chance of communicating with these beings, she's our best hope. You're planning for both war and peace? Asked Counselor John skeptically. I'm planning for reality, Wells answered. We need to be prepared for all possibilities. The council president leaned forward. What exactly would the mission be, Admiral? Rescue, investigation, or retaliation? The room grew quiet again. It was the question everyone had been avoiding. Of the above, Wells said finally. We need to find out more about these Vex. We need to discover if there are any survivors, and we need to make it clear that attacking humans has consequences. Some council members nodded, while others looked uncertain. Show them the ship, said the president. Wells pressed a final button. The screen changed to show something that didn't look like a normal spaceship. The Nemesis was sleek and dark, with no visible weapons or engines. Its surface seemed to shift slightly, almost like it was breathing. What powers it? Asked Counselor Mary. That's classified, Wells replied. What I can tell you is that at the heart of the Nemesis is an AI system called ARIA, Advanced Recursive Intelligence Algorithm. It controls all ship functions and can adapt to any situation. An AI? Is that safe? Asked another counselor. ARIA has been extensively tested and has multiple safeguards, Wells assured them. Without it, the ship's advanced systems couldn't function. The council president stood up. We need to vote. Do we send the Nemesis to investigate what happened at Hope Point and potentially engage these Vex? The vote was quick. 10, yes. 2, no. Prepare your crew, Admiral, said the president. And may God help us all if this leads to war. 3 days later, the Nemesis crew gathered in a secret launch facility hidden beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Captain Thompson addressed them on the loading dock. Each of you was chosen because you're the best at what you do, he told the 50 men and women. Our mission is complicated. We need to find out exactly what happened at Hope Point. We need to see if there are any survivors. And we need to make contact with these Vex, peacefully if possible. His eyes hardened. But make no mistake, if they attack us, we will respond with full force. They chose to attack humans, now they'll learn what that means. As they boarded the Nemesis, Dr. Lisa Moore walked beside Lieutenant Ben Reed. She noticed how tightly he gripped his bag. Are you okay? She asked quietly. I'll be better when we find these aliens, he answered, his voice cold. My brothers' last message said they were excited about discovering a new mineral. That's all they were doing. Science. And they were killed for it. Lisa nodded sympathetically. I understand your anger. But we need to try talking first. Maybe there's an explanation. Ben looked at her with hard eyes. Would any explanation be good enough? She had no answer for that. The crew took their positions. Captain Thompson sat in the command chair on the bridge. Area, prepare for launch, he ordered. A calm, gender-neutral voice responded from everywhere and nowhere. All systems ready, Captain. Launch sequence initiated. The ocean above them parted as the facility's roof opened. Water cascaded down but never touched the ship's hull, repelled by an invisible force. The Nemesis rose silently from its underwater home, its dark surface reflecting the sunlight. In orbit, the ship paused briefly. Then, without the normal flash of conventional engines, it simply vanished, heading toward the edge of human space, carrying Earth's best hope for answers, and perhaps its instrument of vengeance. The Nemesis sliced through the darkness of space, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting the distant starlight. Unlike normal ships with their bright engines and blinking lights, the Nemesis moved like a shadow, silent and nearly invisible, against the void. On the bridge, Captain Thompson studied the star map hovering in the air before him. How long until we reach Hope Point's coordinates? 3 more days at current speed, Aria's calm voice replied. I can increase velocity if desired. Not yet, Thompson said. I want the crew to have time to learn the ship's systems. The Nemesis was unlike any vessel humans had built before. Its corridors seemed to shift subtly when no one was looking. Lights responded to thought as much as touch. And at the center of everything was Aria, an AI so advanced it bordered on something else, entirely. In the tactical room, Lieutenant Ben Reed ran combat simulations. Holographic Vex ships attacked from all angles while he tested different response strategies. Each time, the simulation ended the same way, with the Nemesis taking heavy damage. This isn't working, he muttered in frustration. Perhaps I can assist, Aria offered. A new simulation appeared showing the Nemesis responding differently. Instead of using conventional weapons, the ship's hull rippled and absorbed the energy from the Vex beams. What is that? Ben asked, leaning forward with interest. Adaptive shielding, Aria explained. The ship can analyze any weapon used against it and reconfigure to defend against it. The more we are attacked, the stronger our defenses become. Ben's eyes widened. That's incredible. Can we do the same with our weapons? Yes. Once we understand their technology, we can create counters. For the first time since his brother's death, Ben felt something like hope. Show me more, he said. In another part of the ship, Dr. Lisa Moore studied what little data they had on the Vex. The images from Hope Point showed glimpses of the aliens, tall, thin beings with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shimmer with bioluminescence. Aria, she called out. Can you search our databases for any previous encounters with species matching this description? Searching, Aria replied. A moment later, multiple reports appeared on her screen. There are 3 possible matches, none confirmed. Lisa read through them quickly. All described mysterious attacks on outposts and ships near the outer regions of explored space. All followed the same pattern. Sudden appearance, swift attack, no communication. They've done this before, she whispered. But why? What do they want? As if in answer, Aria displayed a new image, a star chart showing the locations of all reported incidents. Do you see the pattern, Dr. Moore? The AI asked. Lisa stared at the map, then gasped. They're all near unusual resource deposits. Rare. Minerals, strange energy readings. Correct. In each case, humans were scanning or collecting resources when attacked. Lisa's mind raced. It's territorial behavior. They might see our scanning as a claim on resources they consider theirs. She rushed to the bridge, nearly colliding with Ben in the corridor. Captain, she called out as she entered. I think I know why they attacked. Thompson turned to her. Explain. Lisa pointed to the map Aria had shown her. Look at these patterns. Every attack happened when humans were exploring resources in these regions. What if the Vex consider these areas their territory? What if our scanners look like weapons to them or like mining equipment? Ben crossed his arms. That doesn't excuse killing innocent people. No, Lisa agreed. But it might explain it. And if we understand their motivation, we might be able to communicate. Captain Thompson considered this. Aria, can you intercept? Any Vex communications? Do they use radio waves, quantum signals, anything we might detect? I have detected unusual energy patterns that could be communications, Aria responded. They use a method unfamiliar to human technology. I am attempting to decode it. Keep trying, Thompson ordered. If we can listen in on them, we might learn their true intentions. For the next 2 days, Aria worked to crack the Vex communication system. The ship continued its journey toward Hope Point, the crew growing more tense with each passing hour. Then, in the middle of the ship's night cycle, Aria's voice woke Captain Thompson. Captain, I have intercepted and partially decoded a Vex transmission. You should hear this. A strange sound filled Thompson's quarters. Clicking, humming, and whistling combined in complex patterns. Then Aria translated, Return to coordinates. Finishing removal of invaders. Resources secure. Prepare for extraction. Thompson sat up straight. They're going back to Hope Point. Yes, Aria confirmed. based on transmission patterns. I believe they are planning to collect resources from the asteroid belt our scientists were studying. Wake the senior officers. Emergency meeting in 5 minutes. Soon the command crew gathered on the bridge, still in their sleep clothes. The Vex are returning to Hope Point, Thompson told them. They think they eliminated all humans in that sector and now plan to take whatever resources they were protecting. We need to get there before they finish, Ben said, his face hard. Aria, maximum speed, Thompson ordered. How soon can we arrive? At maximum velocity, we can reach Hope Point in 10 hours, the AI replied. Do it, Thompson said. Then he turned to Dr. Moore. Doctor, keep working on understanding their language. If there's a chance for communication, I want it ready. And if there's not? Ben asked quietly. Thompson's eyes were cold. Then we show them exactly what happens when you attack humans. The Nemesis surged forward, its experimental drive bending, the fabric of space around it. Inside, the crew prepared for whatever they might find. In her lab, Lisa worked frantically to develop a translation system, feeding every scrap of Vex communication into Aria's processors. I think I'm starting to understand, she told the AI. Their language is based on resource ownership. They don't have words for hello or peace. They have words for mine and not yours. Their entire culture seems built around claiming and defending territory. That would explain their aggressive response to human exploration, Aria noted. Yes, Lisa sighed. To them, our scanning equipment probably looked like we were saying, this is ours now. And their response was to eliminate the claim by eliminating us. Throughout the ship, weapons were checked, battle stations assigned. The Nemesis had been built for this moment, a confrontation with a technologically superior enemy. As they neared Hope Point, Aria detected the Vex fleet already in position around the remains of the colony. 7 ships, same configuration as before, the AI reported. They appear to be collecting debris. On the main screen, the crew could see the blade-shaped vessels moving methodically through the floating wreckage of what had once been home to 3,000 people. Captain Thompson stood from his chair, facing the image of the aliens who had caused so much death. Aria, activate all defensive systems, he ordered. Take us in. The Nemesis moved forward, finally visible against the stars as its adaptive hull prepared for combat. It approached the Vex fleet like an avenging shadow, carrying humanity's response to an unprovoked attack. The message was clear: you attacked the wrong species. The Nemesis approached the Vex fleet silently, its dark hull absorbing light rather than reflecting it. On the bridge, Captain Thompson watched the alien ships moving through the floating debris of Hope Point Colony. They haven't noticed us yet, he said quietly. Aria, full scan of their vessels. Scanning, the AI replied. Their hulls contain materials unknown to human science. Energy readings suggest powerful weapons systems, similar to those used in the attack. I detect no conventional shields, but something else. A field that may bend space slightly around each ship. Dr. Lisa Moore stood beside the captain, her face pale as she watched the remains of the colony drift by on the screen. All those people, she whispered. Lieutenant Ben Reed's eyes never left the Vex ships. We should strike now while we have surprise on our side. Thompson shook his head. No, Dr. Moore has developed a possible communication method. We'll try that first. Captain, Lisa said, I've programmed a simple message explaining that we come from Earth, that Hope Point was a peaceful colony and that we wish to understand why they attacked. Will they understand it? Thompson asked. Aria has adapted it to match the patterns we've decoded from their communications. It's our best chance. Thompson nodded. Send it. A beam of data streamed from the Nemesis toward the nearest Vex ship. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then suddenly all 7 alien vessels stopped their movements. They've received it, Aria announced. They're changing formation, Ben warned, pointing to the tactical display. The Vex ships were arranging themselves in a half-circle pattern. Defensive. Positions, Thompson ordered. But hold fire. The main screen flickered, showing strange symbols and patterns of light. They're responding, Lisa said excitedly. Aria translated. Unknown vessel. You trespass on Vex territory. Your kind was removed from this sector. Depart or be eliminated. Tell them we are here to understand why they attacked our people, Thompson said. Explain that Hope Point was a scientific outpost, not a military base. Lisa sent the message. The response came quickly. Your scanning devices claimed ownership of resources. Ownership claims are met with elimination. This is Vex law. Ben leaned forward. So they killed 3,000 people because they thought our scanners were some kind of territorial marker. Their culture appears completely based around resource ownership, Lisa explained. To them, scanning equals claiming. Can we explain the misunderstanding? Thompson asked. I'm trying, Lisa said, typing rapidly. I'm telling them that humans use scanning for gathering information, not claiming territory. She sent the message. Long seconds passed. Then the Vex ships suddenly moved, their blade-like forms cutting through space toward the Nemesis. They're attacking! Ben shouted. Purple energy beams shot from the lead Vex ship, striking the Nemesis directly. The crew braced for impact, but instead of explosion or damage, the ship shuddered slightly. Hull integrity at 98%, Area reported, calmly. Analyzing Vex weapon technology, adapting shields, the Vex fired again. This time the beams seemed to slide around the Nemesis, barely touching it. Hull integrity at 97%. Area updated. Shields adapting. I am now able to counter their main weapons. Thompson's eyes widened. It's working. The adaptive systems are learning their technology. Should we return fire? Ben asked, his hands hovering over the weapon's controls. Thompson hesitated. Dr. Moore, any progress with communication? Lisa shook her head. They've stopped responding to messages. I think in their culture, once combat begins, there's no more talking. Then we have no choice, Thompson said grimly. Area, target their weapon systems only. Disable, don't destroy. Targeting, Area confirmed. I have developed countermeasures, based on their technology. The Nemesis's hull rippled, and suddenly bright blue energy beams shot toward two Vex ships. The beams cut through their weapons arrays with surgical precision. Direct hits, Ben reported, surprise in his voice. Their weapons are offline. The remaining Vex ships adjusted their attack pattern, coming at the Nemesis from different angles. They fired again, this time with a different kind of weapon, a green field that seemed to distort space itself. Gravity weapons, Area announced. They are attempting to crush our hull, analyzing, countering. The Nemesis shuddered more violently this time, but held together. Hull integrity at 85%, Area reported. I am learning their gravity technology. Fascinating design. Less admiration, more counterattack, Thompson ordered. Area fired again, this time sending pulses that matched the Vex gravity weapons. 2 more alien ships lost their weapons capability. 4 down, 3 to go, Ben said with grim satisfaction. The Vex ships suddenly pulled back, regrouping at a distance. They're communicating with each other, Lisa noted, watching her console. Complicated data bursts. Can you translate? Thompson asked. Not completely, but they seem confused. I don't think they expected us to withstand their weapons. Arya, Thompson said, can you access their communication systems? I have been analyzing their transmission methods, the AI replied. I believe I can now interface directly with their ship systems. Do it, Thompson ordered. Let's see what we're dealing with. Arya went silent for several seconds. When the AI spoke again, its voice contained something almost like wonder. I have accessed their central system. The Vex are not what we thought. They are a hive consciousness. Each ship contains thousands of interconnected beings, sharing a single mind. They have encountered many species, but none with our technology. They are afraid. Afraid? Ben asked incredulously. They destroyed an entire colony. Yes, Arya confirmed. And in their culture, that would have been the end. Any species they've encountered before would have been eliminated or would have fled. They have no concept of a species returning with superior technology. Can you communicate directly with them now? Thompson asked. Yes. I am explaining our position. I am showing them images of Earth, of humanity's full extent. They did not realize we were a major civilization. They thought Hope Point was an isolated group. The bridge fell silent as everyone watched the Vex ships, hanging motionless, in space. They are processing the information, Arya said. This is outside their experience. Suddenly the Vex ships began moving again. Not toward the Nemesis, but arranging themselves in a circle formation. What are they doing? Thompson asked tensely. It appears to be a non-aggressive posture, Lisa said, studying her readings. Possibly, their version of a parley position. They wish to communicate, Arya confirmed. They are re-evaluating their assessment of humans. Thompson looked at his officers. This was the moment that would determine whether they faced war or had a chance for peace. Open a channel, he ordered. Let's talk. On the main screen, an image appeared, a strange, shifting mass of light and color that slowly formed into a rough approximation of a human face. It was the Vex attempt to create a familiar interface. We did not know, a voice said through Arya's translation. Your kind returns. Your kind fights. Your kind adapts. This is not known behavior. Thompson stepped forward. We came to understand why you attacked our people and to prevent it from happening again. The face on the screen shifted colors. We follow our way. Scanning is claiming. Claiming brings removal. For humans, scanning is learning, Thompson explained. We did not understand your ways. There was a long pause, then. Your ship learns our weapons, becomes stronger against them. No species has done this before. That is our way, Thompson said simply. We adapt. We overcome. The colors in the face pulsed rapidly, their version of intense communication. We will withdraw from this sector, the Vex finally said. Your adaptation is concerning. We must consider this new information. Thompson knew this wasn't peace, but it was a start. We would prefer understanding to conflict. We can establish boundaries that respect both our peoples. The face flickered. This is unknown territory we will consider. The image vanished and the Vex ships began moving away, their engines glowing blue against the darkness. They're leaving, Ben said in disbelief. Just like that? They're afraid, Lisa realized. The Nemesis scared them. They've never encountered a technology that could adapt to theirs so quickly. Thompson watched the retreating ships. Arya, maintain combat readiness until they're out of range. Yes, Captain, the AI replied. Captain, I should inform you that during my connection with their systems, I downloaded significant data about Vex technology and culture. We now understand much more about them. Will they return? Thompson asked. Unknown, Arya said. But one thing is certain. They now understand that humans are not a species to be attacked lightly. As the last Vex ship disappeared into the darkness, Thompson looked at the floating remains of Hope Point Colony. Prepare a memorial for the colony, he ordered quietly, then set course for Earth. The Council needs to know what we've learned and what we might face in the future. The Nemesis turned, its adaptive hull shifting back to its dark, light-absorbing state. The ship that had changed everything moved, silently through the debris field, carrying a message back to Earth. The galaxy had just become a more dangerous place. The journey back to Earth was somber. Though the Nemesis had achieved a tactical victory, no one felt like celebrating. The crew had seen firsthand the remains of Hope Point Colony. The floating debris that once housed 3,000 people, now nothing but twisted metal and frozen memories. Captain Thompson sat alone in his quarters reviewing the mission logs. Tomorrow they would reach Earth, and he would need to report everything to the United Earth Council. His screen showed images from their encounter with the Vex, the strange blade ships, the purple energy weapons, and the final standoff that ended not in battle, but in retreat. A soft knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. Enter, he called. Out Dr. Lisa Moore stepped inside carrying a data pad. Captain, I've finished analyzing the Vex communication patterns Arya downloaded. I thought you should see this before we reach Earth. Thompson gestured to a chair. What have you found? Lisa sat down, her face troubled. The Vex aren't just territorial, they're expansionist. They've been systematically claiming resource-rich areas across this entire sector. Hope Point was Just one of many outposts they've destroyed from various species. So they're conquerors, Thompson said grimly. Yes, but with a twist. They don't see it as conquest. They see it as natural law. In their culture, the strong claim resources, the weak perish. It's built into their language, their thinking. There's no concept of sharing or coexistence. That doesn't bode well for future relations. Lisa nodded. There's more. They're discussing us now across their entire network. The nemesis frightened them deeply. They've never encountered a ship that could adapt to their weapons or an AI that could breach their systems. Good, Thompson said. Fear might keep them away from human territory. Or it might make them see us as their greatest threat, Lisa countered. They could be planning a larger attack even now. Before Thompson could respond, Aria's voice came through the ship's speakers. Captain, Lieutenant Reed is requesting permission to enter. Allow him, Thompson said. Ben Reed walked in, his eyes red from lack of sleep. Captain, Doctor, he nodded, to them both. I've been working with Aria on something important. What is it, Lieutenant? A defense system, Ben explained. Using what we learned about Vex technology, we could create early warning beacons for all human colonies. If the Vex approach, we'd know immediately. Good thinking, Thompson approved. What else? Aria and I have also developed specifications for retrofitting our existing fleet with adaptive technology. Not as advanced as the Nemesis, but enough to give us a fighting chance if the Vex return in force. Thompson studied the young officer. Ben had lost his brother at Hope Point, yet here he was, focused on protecting others rather than seeking revenge. I'll make both recommendations to the Council, Thompson promised. 3 hours later, an alert sounded throughout the ship. Captain to the bridge, Aria announced. Thompson rushed to his post, finding his officers already at their stations. What's happening? He demanded. We're picking up a signal, the communications officer reported. It's coming from Vex space, but it's not a Vex transmission, it's human. Put it through, Thompson ordered. A scratchy voice filled the bridge. To any Earth vessel, this is Dr. Robert White of Hope Point Colony. If anyone can hear this, we are being held. The message cut off suddenly. Thompson stared at the speaker in shock. Dr. White was on one of the research ships that was attacked. We thought everyone was killed. The message originated from a location deep in what we now know as Vex territory, Aria reported. Approximately 3 light days from Hope Point. They took prisoners, Ben said, his voice tight with emotion. They didn't kill everyone. They captured some. This changes everything, Lisa whispered. Thompson straightened his shoulders. Plot a course to Earth, maximum speed. The Council needs this information immediately. 2 days later, the Nemesis docked at Earth's orbital station. The United Earth Council had gathered for an emergency session, and Captain Thompson stood before them in the Grand Chamber. Counselors, he began. Our mission revealed 3 critical facts. First, the Vex are a hive species with a culture based entirely on resource domination. Second, their technology is advanced but not unbeatable. The Nemesis proved that. And third, we have evidence that some Hope Point personnel may have been captured rather than killed. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. You believe there could be survivors? Asked the Council President. Yes, Thompson confirmed. We intercepted a distress signal from Dr. Robert White, one of the colony's lead scientists. So what do you propose, Captain? Asked Counselor Mary. Thompson took a deep breath. A rescue mission. We take the Nemesis back into Vex territory, find our people and bring them home. Heated debate filled the chamber. Some counselors argued for immediate action, others for caution. This could trigger a full-scale war, objected Counselor John. And abandoning our people would show weakness, countered another counselor. The Vex only understand strength. Finally, the Council President raised his hand for silence. Before we vote, I want to hear from the Nemesis crew. Dr. Moore, as our xenobiology expert, what's your assessment? Lisa stepped forward. The Vex see the universe in terms of dominance and submission. Our best chance for peaceful relations is to show them that humans are too strong to attack, but not so aggressive that we must be eliminated at all costs. It's a delicate balance, And you, Lieutenant Reed? The president asked. You lost family at Hope Point. What do you recommend? Ben stood straight, his voice steady. When I first boarded the Nemesis, I wanted revenge. I wanted to destroy every Vex ship we found. He paused. But now, knowing there might be survivors, knowing my brother might be alive, I want something different. I want to show the Vex who humans really are. And what are we, Lieutenant? Asked Counselor Mary softly. We're adaptable. We're resourceful. But most importantly, we don't abandon our own. That's what makes us different from the Vex. They see strength only in conquest. We find strength in protecting each other. A hush fell over the chamber. Finally, the president nodded. Well said, Lieutenant. We will vote now. The decision was unanimous. The Nemesis would return to Vex space on a rescue mission. 1 week later, the ship was ready to depart again. Its hull had been repaired, its systems upgraded based on what they had learned about Vex technology. The crew stood at attention as Captain Thompson addressed them one last time before launch. Our mission is clear, he told them. Find our people and bring them home. Show the Vex that humans protect their own. But remember this, we are not conquerors. We are explorers, scientists, peace seekers. We fight when we must, but we choose cooperation when we can. As the Nemesis lifted off, a message arrived from Vex space, another transmission from Dr. White, clearer this time. To Earth forces. We are being studied. They want to understand how humans think, how we adapt. They've never seen anything like us before. Be careful, but also know this. They're learning from us, just as we're learning from them. There might be hope for understanding, if we're smart enough to find it. The message gave the crew new purpose. This wasn't just about revenge or rescue anymore. It was about showing the Vex and perhaps the galaxy what humanity truly stood for. As the Nemesis disappeared among the stars, heading back toward Vex territory, it carried not just weapons and shields, but something the Vex had never encountered before. Humans who valued life over resources, compassion over conquest, and who would travel across the galaxy to save a handful of their own. The Vex had attacked the wrong species, not because humans were more powerful or more advanced, but because they were more human than the Vex could possibly understand. And that humanity would prove to be the greatest weapon of all.